Times may have changed, but attitudes lag. Enter Adam Pertman, a 22-year veteran reporter for the Boston Globe, nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for a series he did on adoption. He got so immersed in that world as the father of 2 adopted children and the author of the book Adoption Nation that he left his journalism career to help America undergo an attitude adjustment about adoption. He takes his message wherever people will listen, including a recent Carolina Panthers NFL game.
About 100 million Americans today have adoption in their immediate families, but its impact is far greater because whether you know it or not, your relatives, neighbors, friends, and coworkers have adopted or were adopted or gave birth to a child who was adopted. We are in the midst of an adoption revolution. We are not hiding anymore.
With me tonight, my Nightline colleague, John Donvan.
Ted, Adam Pertman loves his kids, and in a way that is his bottom line. It's what brought him to our attention. It's what landed him the job of executive director of the Evan B. Donaldson Institute, an institute that is the country's only think tank focusing on adoption. Because Pertman's love for his own kids grew into something else. They're adopted, and he wants the world made better for the adopted in general and for the rest of their families. You may agree or disagree with him, but again, at bottom, his career change is about his own kids and how much he loves them. And that's why he is so passionate about all of this.
People will come up to you and say, this really happens. I'm not saying it happens every day. This really happens. People will come up to you and say, you are so lucky. You adopted children. That is so great. You get to be a parent. That's so wonderful. And that child gets a wonderful home. I bet you are giving that kid a great home.
You do very good patronizing.
but I am sorry you couldn't have any real children. Wow.
And that's with the kid standing there?
Sometimes. Now, 2 things. One, my kid looks real. You can touch him. He runs around like he's real. Why does he have to wonder why I'm not his real parent? I think he thinks I'm his real parent, and I am. But also, it reveals an underlying attitude, doesn't it? I mean, if I'm so lucky, how come you feel sorry for me? And the answer is, you do think I'm lucky, but you think that my family might not be quite up to snuff. Not quite as good as it should have or could have been. It's just as good.
So what you're asking for is for all of us to accord more honor to that word,
Absolutely.
Adoption.
Absolutely. That's very well put. Our families aren't honored. We talk about adoption in ways that we would never talk about other families. We still use the words that describe my children as an insult. You're adopted. My kids aren't an insult. Neither are anybody. I can't hold it together when I say this, but no kids are an insult. But we still use that, and that's the remnant of that world.
You mean it's a put? You mean when you say as an insult, you mean it's a put down? Hey,
absolutely.
You must
somebody
be adopted.
Misbehave, you must be adopted if you want to really insult a kid. Pick up a newspaper on any given day, and you might see Ted Jones was arrested yesterday for lighting fires. Jones, who was adopted, what exactly did that have to do with the story? It's in stories every day, coast to coast. Jones, who was adopted. How about Jones, who was born by cesarean section? Or how about Jones, who is black? Or how about Jones, who is a Jew? Why would we do that if it has nothing to do with the story? It has nothing to do with the story.
And you think the newspapers go to that because?
Because they don't know better. Because they think it's a pertinent piece of information.
Because they think it's pertinent.
But there's nothing in that story that indicates the adoption had anything to do with his lighting the fire. That's why the story's in the paper. But it's also revealing of some underlying attitude, because it might be there, because we do think that maybe
That's why he lit the fire.
And it's worse than just revealing of the attitude of the person who wrote it. It sends the signal to all the readers that maybe it's there for a reason. So maybe there is something wrong with adoption. Every parent's dream, every parent's goal in life is to make the world better for their kids. And I decided my kids cannot grow up in a world in which people think that their family is lesser, in which the words that describe them are still used as an insult, in which people so deeply do not understand who they are, what their desires are and how they live, in which adopt a highway signs are, up everywhere they look around, or adopt a book, or adopt a parent, or adopt a child.
What's wrong with that?
Because it's sponsorship, first of all, not adoption. It's commercial. And there are kids all over the country who see those signs and say, oh, is somebody, or think, does somebody else sponsor me next week? And we turn them into products. Those are products, all of them. My kids aren't products. And we shouldn't use the same language the same language should not apply to human beings as to things that you buy and sell and trade.
Tell me you're not creating a new category of political correctness on this one. Tell me why you're not.
Because it's not political correctness to want human beings treated differently than road signs. If that's political correctness, I plead guilty. I've talked about how the depictions of adoption sometimes undermine the families involved. A good example is the first Stuart Little movie, in which the birth parents come back to the family and ask for their kid back.
Where are his parents?
It turns out they're fraudulent. They're not really the birth parents.
Stuart, it shames me to say this, but you weren't born into a prosperous home.
That's right. We couldn't feed you, dear. Couldn't feed him? How much could he eat?
And the adoptive parents give them back. I know families in which the children went screaming out of the movie theater. They're little kids. They don't know that doesn't happen. They went screaming out of the movie theater. Now, I don't think that the producers and writers meant to do that. I don't think legislators or movie makers mean to sit down and say, I wonder how I can hurt kids and families today. They don't do that. But ignorance does not yield good outcomes. We're stretching the definition of family. We're changing the definition of family.
Up Close, brought to you by Lexus.
With advanced off-road technology, an available third-row seat, and a powerful 4.7-liter V8 engine, the new Lexus GX is an adventure in luxury.
You're not going to take a PM to help you fall asleep.
Huh?
Well, do you have a backache?
Uh-uh.
Headache?
Uh-uh.
How about fever? Then why take a PM with an extra medicine commonly used to treat aches, pains, and fever?
Oh.
Unisom Sleep Gels has the same amount of the same ingredient to help you fall asleep without the extra medicine. So, when you just need sleep, safe, non-habit-forming Unisom's just what you need. Look for savings on Unisom in your Sunday paper.
Thursday, young women lured off the streets into a homemade torture chamber. A madman taping it all. Murder, madness, and evil. What happened down these stairs is what movies are made of. But this is no movie. A primetime, real crime mystery, Thursday.
Hey, Billy, go long.
Not again.
Hey, Larry, wake up. No! Hey, neighbor, quick slant. Oh, all right, Joe.
Oh, it's sad, really.
Now that Isaac's Home Furnishings offers the all-new Mitsubishi widescreen HD TV, you pay nothing until January 2004. Maybe Joe Montana can finally retire in style at Isaac's Home Furnishings, Yakima.
If you can catch a baseball, cook up a masterpiece, if you're good at algebra, or know how to play checkers, you can be a mentor. All it takes is 1 hour a week. You can make a difference in a child's life. Mentoring gives children the guidance and skills they need to help them on the road to success. For more information on mentoring, call the Yakima YMCA at 248-1202.
Adam, what's the revolution, given that adoption has been going on for generations? Why do you use the word revolution about today?
Well, because I think that it's revolutionary in two ways. Internally, the process simply works not at all like it used to. This was a process that existed in the shadows. White people adopted white children, very often, most often pretended they didn't, very often didn't even tell their kids they were adopted, and we determined that doesn't work very well. And so we lived lives of pretense, and the birth parents were shunted aside as though they were baby-making machines who had done their jobs and were supposed to go away. That was the old model. As late as roughly the mid-1960s, hard to do research on secrets, up as many as 80 to 90% of all unwed mothers, the children of unwed mothers, wound up in adoptive homes because you simply couldn't raise your own child if you weren't married.
And that was associated at that point with shame and
That's right.
secrecy.
That's right. And today that statistic is under 2%, roughly 2%. As we age as baby boomers and have careers, especially women, later and later, we start forming those families later, infertility rates go up, and people still want to have families, so they want to adopt, and all these white babies aren't around. And the simplest example is an infant adoption in America today. The birth mother typically, and the father, if he's around, picks the new parents for her child. It's very different from how it used to work. Complete opposite. It's done 180 degrees with all the implications of that, the relationships that form. We're transforming the nature of families in America.
By what mechanism does the birth mother pick the adoptive parents? Do they meet, or does she?
Oh, they meet. Typically, they meet. Sometimes, I mean, the internet plays into this. Sometimes it happens on the internet. Agencies most often are involved, or a lawyer or a practitioner of some sort. But more and more, it's independent. More and more, it's people doing their own thing, people searching out their birth mothers, the birth mothers searching out prospective parents. That woman coming to visit on Sundays at, your neighbor's home may well be the birth mother of those children. We're stretching the definition of family. We're changing the definition of family. And let me give you an example. One little girl in an all-white schoolyard, say a Chinese girl, we could use any example, because there are lots of those across America, is changing the way all the teachers in that school teach family formation. That's a pretty big impact for one human being. All the kids growing up with that girl have a different view of what families are than we grew up with, of what nature, of the balance of nature and nurture, of the importance of blood ties, of whether children need to look like their parents. There are lots of kids of color who need homes. And in fact, there aren't enough parents of color to provide those homes, or we probably wouldn't have as many white people gravitating toward those children or the same needs. And one of the lacks, I think, as a society, one of the things we haven't done very well is recruit parents of color. So we have these kids who need homes, and we don't have enough parents who do look like them, who understand their issues.
When I was a reporter in Romania in the early 90s, it was the beginning of a real huge wave of Americans going to those orphanages that were just packed with kids.
Right.
A lot of times there's money passed on the table. Nevertheless, kids are coming out. Presumably, we think, as Americans, we think that those kids are better off, number one, because they're in a loving environment. Number two, I think we think they're better off because they're in America than in Romania. Romanians weren't too crazy about this. Romanian people, nationalists and just ordinary folks, had a kind of, saw it as insulting, not that they were getting to a warm, loving family, but that there was the notion that you can come and buy our kids.
Absolutely.
What about that? I kind of think if I were in a Romanian's position, I might feel the same way.
What do I think? I don't like it. The sad fact is, it's not true in our country, it's not true in Romania, it's not true in most countries. Those governments are not taking care of their children. So somebody needs to. If that kid stays in the orphanage in Romania, or pick another country, is he or she better off in the home country? Or is that kid better off, or will she be adopted within Romania? Numbers indicate the answer is no. She will probably grow up in an institution all of her life. Who is going to argue that that's better? My wife and I both thank God that we were infertile.
powerful new Silverado is here. Still available with the 340-horse Vortec V8.
I never know when pain's gonna find me, but when it does, the icy hot patch is where I find relief. Icy first to dull the pain, then hot to relax pain away for hours. I put it on and the pain is gone.
Now, Healthy Choice Chicken Noodle Soup has 20% more roasted white meat chicken, hearty noodles, and tender slices of carrots and celery. So it's rich in flavor, not salt.
So make the delicious choice. Make it Healthy Choice.
Hi, I want a dishwasher and I want the best deal.
Well, we match any price.
Hi, if I bought an appliance here and saw it for less, then what?
Just tell us within 30 days and we'll give you 10% of the difference.
Excuse me?
Yes, we price match.
I'll take it.
You got a little...
Where can you get the top 6 brands of appliances, including Kenmore? Where can you get Price Match Plus, where they'll match any price plus give 10% of the difference? Sears. Where else?
Call 1-800-HAIR-CLUB for this free hair loss booklet and read about what causes hair loss and what options are proven to work.
For 25 years, we've been offering hair loss information to millions of men and women who have been seeking a solution to thinning hair. You can be sure that Hair Club is on the cutting edge of hair loss technology to make you feel your very best. You can get your hair back and stop hair loss. Consultations are free, so get ready to look great and feel better than you've ever felt before. And you can take it from me, because I'm also a client.
The Hour's Ed Harris is going to tell us all about his latest film and his very first appearance on The View. Plus, find out how you can get rid of those nasty wrinkles tomorrow live on The View.
This is me. And my mom and dad. And my big brother, Alex. And Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand. That jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
Enjoy an evening of concertos when horn soloist Jeffrey Snedeker and clarinet soloists Joseph and Jeffrey Brooks join the Yakima Symphony Orchestra January 11th.
Knowing what you know now about the kind of family you can have by adopting, would you conceivably, earlier in your marriage when you were trying to have your kids naturally, would you consider not even bothering trying to have kids naturally, even if you could, and adopting instead?
Without knowing what the kids are, I think the answer is probably yes, because we were old enough and it was a pain in the butt, literally enough, if anybody knows what infertility treatments consist of, it was that it wouldn't have been worth it. If I really knew then what I know now, no, we wouldn't have done all of that. And we did decide that we were going to adopt, almost very, very quickly. So we adopted Zach first. He's now 8 years old, Zachary. And 3 years later, after several fall-throughs of birth mothers who decided that they were going to parent their kids, so we had that grief cycle too. And I think, and it's not a problem for me. It was at the time, certainly. And I realized at some point that it is the adoptive equivalent of miscarriage. You don't want it. You do grieve it. The difference in the adoptive version is the child is alive and well in the arms of someone who loves her. It's not a horrible outcome. And then we adopted Amelia Emmy, who is now 5. And we stopped there because we were too old to have any more children. You know, there's some real cosmic sense to all of this. These are the kids we were supposed to raise. This is the life that we get. And life is not simple. No form of family formation is simple.
What's your relationship with the birth mothers of your 2 kids?
Good question. We have an open relationship with Emmy's birth mother.
Which means that you all know each other,
We know each other, we talk to each other, we meet each other. In Zach's case, and we do not have an open relationship with his birth parents. We would love to have it. We have made efforts toward that, and not yet. People have to do what's right for them in their lives, too, and I respect that. But we're amenable to it and, in fact, desirous of it.
So the agency was not encouraging you. Basically, the agency was not encouraging you to get to know each other very well.
That's right.
And
That's
if
right.
anything, they were subtly discouraging you to keep distance.
They were saying that this is sufficient.
And what do you think now?
I wish to God that they lived next door.
Why?
A, because it respects them and doesn't turn them into baby-making machines. I am very grateful to the people who made me a parent. Extremely grateful. And selfishly, as a parent, I'll do a better job if I have more information. If I have ongoing medical information, genealogical information, information about what the parents were like growing up, so I can see what patterns are real and what patterns maybe aren't so real with my own children.
When did Zach and Emmy understand that they were adopted? Always?
Now that's the most common question. When do you tell your child? I always answer this with an anecdote from a friend, a social worker friend, who was placing an infant, a baby, into the arms of a couple who were going to adopt her. And they said, and they whispered, when do we tell her she's adopted? Mm-hmm. You know, this child this big. And the social worker looked back and said, on the way home.
So it's always there.
So it's always there.
So there was never sit down with Zach at the age of 7 and say, Zach, there's something I want to tell you.
Right.
It was there.
From the start. Emmy, my daughter, who's 5, tends to ask more questions. And, you know, what does he look like? What is she? It's simple stuff at this age. I expect, not yet, but any day now, I expect that we will start getting real questions about why did my birth parents not want to keep me.
Boy,
is that heavy enough for you?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do with that question?
We're going to answer it.
And what are you going to say?
Well, I'm not going to tell you before I tell him.
Do you know,
with all due
this way,
respect.
do you know what you're going to say?
Yes. We're going to tell him the truth. Absolutely.
Is there any argument to be made whatsoever that keeping some secrets could also be good for your children?
I think there's very little that in the end, and that's important to say in the end, that you want to keep secret from them. It is their lives, it is their heritage, it is their biology, it is their history. They have a right to it. It doesn't mean they have a right to all the details at the age of 8.
It's probably a tough question because you obviously love your kids. Would you rather have had kids by birth?
The answer to your question is my wife and I both thank God that we were infertile.
Really?
Oh, thank God.
Is there anything that you feel that you miss as a result of your children being adopted?
Introducing the new Nissan Murano for your adventures in on-roading.
An evening in front of the fireplace or wood stove can be so relaxing, but each year there are thousands of reported chimney fires. Help protect your home with CSL, the chimney sweeping log. It treats your chimney while it burns. Inside your chimney walls, there's a constant buildup of flammable tar and creosote. The active minerals in CSL will start to dry out and reduce those dangerous deposits, making your next fire safer. It's so easy. Burn just once every 60 fires. CSL, the chimney sweeping log.
CSL's available at Kmart, Rite Aid, Walgreens, and Lowe's Home Centers. Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. My new talk show starts on ABC Super Bowl Sunday. In the meantime, I'm getting a little practice. You are dating Julia Roberts. Is that true? You know, I don't think I've had you on the show before. Our next guest doesn't need any introduction.
Jimmy Kimmel Live, late night starting Super Bowl Sunday on ABC.
We'll be back right after this.
Hear that? It's the sound of nothing. That's because everyone's at Furniture Row Outlet's January clearance sale. There's nothing quite like when we load our aisles and take markdowns to clear out overstocked inventory, discontinued groups, and one-of-a-kind items. For a limited time, you'll find significant savings on hundreds of items, plus get no payments and no interest for 1 full year. Don't be left out in the cold. Furniture Row Outlet's January clearance sale, plus no interest, no payments for 1 year, ends soon.
Tolerance is accepting someone before they walk through the door.
No matter what their background, their looks, their ethnicity, their religion, their lifestyle.
It's about accepting people for who they are, as individuals.
Tolerance. It's respecting or recognizing someone's beliefs or practices.
Their culture, their family, their traditions.
Tolerance is celebrating the diversity that makes us great.
Tolerance. Honor the differences.
Honor the differences.
Honor the differences.
Picture a world of respect. Visit tolerance.org to learn more.
There's a question I would never ask an adopting parent unless I knew them extremely well, but I'll put to you because it looks like you can take anything on these questions. Is there anything that you feel that you miss as a result of your children being adopted and not your natural kids?
Okay.
You think it's an unfair question?
No, I think it's a fair question. And I think people probably ask themselves that, and I'm sure that people outside of adoptive families ask them that, or wonder it. The only thing I miss is probably seeing someone who looks like me. And I don't miss it. I mean, that's theoretical. I think there are probably people for whom it's not theoretical. And you can grieve that. That's okay. You can feel like you missed something in your life without your life being incomplete. It's not as though you don't have something in return.
Well,
I have someone who looks better than I do. I have 2 of them who look better than I do. They have improved the gene pool. They have absolutely given me more delight in my life than I imagined conceivable. No pun intended. That's a big payback. That's a very big payback. And by the way, if you have a kid biologically, there's no guarantee she'll look like you either. So what do you do then? Turn him back and be disappointed? You love the kid you get. You love the kid you get, and you give them the best life you know how.
To watch up close any time of day, go to our website at abcnews.com.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.